First of all, before I say anything else, I just want to say that if you do happen to feel that you can't go on at this point, please be aware that the best way of guaranteeing that things are not going to get better is by ending it all at this point. And there are people out there who care and want to talk to you and want to listen to you and will be able to help you. But having got that out of the way, I just want to talk about the most depressing day of the year, okay, which was yesterday, not today for most people. And the reason it's depressing is that it's the time when Christmas is over, there's a long time before anything new happens, it's dark and cold, it's the middle of winter, and you get things like that in the post, which is a fine from the Inland Revenue for a hell of a lot of money, or credit card bills or whatever, and it's quite realistic to be depressed about that. Now obviously depression is a word that is overused, and it's not the same as sadness, but there is an aspect to depression which is quite interesting to me, which is depressive realism. That is the idea that depressed people are more in touch with reality than people who are not depressed. There was an experiment done a few years ago where there was a light that went off on and off at random, and subjects in the experiment were expected to press a button to see whether they had any control over it, and the people who were not depressed were less able to realise that they didn't have any control over the light. Now, the thing about depressive realism is it's not necessarily a good thing. A certain degree of self-deception is healthy. And perhaps for that reason, a certain degree of religion is healthy as well, if you consider religion to be false. The problem with being in touch with reality is that you will then see everything in a very raw way. In the same way as if you didn't have any surface to your skin, if you had a skin disease, you'd be too much in touch with physical reality and you would injure yourself in that way, and it'd be very painful and raw and scarring. So, that's depressive realism. Now there are other things as well. There is the cognitive triad, which is negative beliefs about the self, the future and the world. Now, that's seeing things that aren't there. That's not seeing things that are there, or possibly seeing things that aren't there. And it's not necessarily accurate, but it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy, because for some reason, people behave towards you the way you behave towards them. They sort of mirror your feelings. So you get picked on, you get bullied, you get mobbed or whatever, because of the negativity that you're unable to stop putting out there. And you need to break into that cycle somehow. Now, I could find that bill depressing. In fact, I find it provokes anxiety. The provocation of anxiety, some people say that anxiety states and depression are the same thing, two different sides of the same coin, because of the amine theory of depression. Now, I don't really want to talk about amines now, but basically what it is that antidepressants increase the presence of amines in the synaptic clefts and all that sort of thing, and it's not particularly interesting. But simple chemical differences in the brain are not the same as being healthy. All we've got is a chemical difference. That doesn't mean that depression is an inaccurate way of perceiving the world. It may just mean that there are a lot of normal people out there whose brains are addled and are unable to see things clearly, and as a result they're happy. Now, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously, but another interesting thing about it is that depressed people sometimes don't see the real problems that they have and become fixated on the unreal problems. For example, somebody may have a series of test results. They may have a quite obvious, serious problem with their physical health, and they will focus on something completely different. And that is weird, because actually that something that's completely different may actually be really trivial and unimportant, and they will then go on to ignore the thing that's important. It's a little bit like somebody has a phobia of dogs and they see a dog on the towpath, they jump into the canal. It's not a good way to go. So you need to have an accurate perception of the world, but depression is not necessarily an accurate perception. It's just accurate in particular areas, and it's very difficult to get from there to here, but it can be done, because I am a pretty depressive person and clinically diagnosable, I'm sure, but right now I'm not depressed, and that's a good thing. See you tomorrow.